Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Crawford. I'm Head of Client Engagement here at Workbooks, which means that I get to travel around the country visiting new clients, most often to run one of our shared success workshops. I also have the pleasure of meeting existing clients, many of whom who have been using Workbooks for many years. I get to spend time with them finding out how their organisation has changed and grown over the years, and then helping them to discover how much more Workbooks could do for them, above and beyond what it was configured to do when they first launched CRM. I will be joined by my colleague and co-presenter Jean, who will be introducing herself a little later. So today we're going to speak about CRM best practice. This is not so much about best practice process in your business, which is likely to be unique to each organization. Instead, today we are looking at best practice in the management of your CRM system, so that it supports your organization and your colleagues effectively and delivers maximum value to you as a business. We can't tell you how to run your company, but we can advise you on how best to manage the system that supports it and ensure that it continues to do so consistently well into the future. During your initial implementation, your new CRM needs to be, among other things, tightly defined, thoroughly documented, well designed, and appropriately customized to meet your needs. All your colleagues must be trained how to use it. The solution needs to be thoroughly tested. Your data needs to be fully migrated, and ultimately you require a successful launch. Even after getting those elements right, you still need to keep on top of adoption, maintain data quality, and possibly refine your processes during the post-launch bedding in phase. And a great CRM provider like Workbooks will help you through that immediate post-go live period as part of your implementation. So what's the reality? Well, once the system is bedded in, managing the CRM does not stop there. CRM software will create significant value for your business over the coming years, but it will not do so by magic. There is still an investment to be made, which requires resources, and for those resources to be given sufficient time to apply to CRM. This will ensure that your initial investment continues to deliver maximum benefits and value to the business over the longer term, not just on launch day. As soon as you look further forward in time, you just know that there will be changes. The changes could be in personnel, ways of working, the products you offer, customer needs and expectations, growth, acquisitions, mergers, basically almost any reason under the sun. Given that we know business change is inevitable, then it's equally inevitable that your CRM will need to be adapted in some way or other to make sure it is aligned with this business change, whatever it may be. A critical element of best practice CRM management is simply being aware of the investment you need to continue to make to maintain the business process efficiency and keep your CRM as effective as it was when you first went live. For example, if you launch a new product offering with different attributes to all your existing products, your CRM, if left unchanged, might struggle to process customer orders efficiently. Or if you create a new brand, you might need the associated output documents in CRM to look different to the existing ones. Or if you were to merge with another business, you may need the CRM to support two radically different sales processes. Ultimately, your CRM needs to change in some way to keep up with the business. And crucially, someone needs to manage that change. A completely static CRM might not deal with some of the changes in the examples I've mentioned. Simply allowing your CRM to stay the same or hoping it will cope might not work. Passively dealing with necessary changes as they come up might result in a form of firefighting that could just stress everyone out. At the very least, your CRM could simply become less efficient and less effective than it was before the business change, if it is not being managed in a proactive, best practice way. There are three elements that we believe you will need to consider with respect to best practice in the management of your CRM, people, processes, and technology. Let's look at the first of these elements that make up the successful CRM framework. People. This is very specifically the people you have in place or the resources you need to have in place in the business to ensure that you're maximizing your investment in CRM. Note that this is not a single person. It is called out as people quite deliberately, and that's because it is a risk in itself to be reliant on one person alone. One of our clients even regards it as a business continuity risk, so we're advising them and actively helping them address that right now. As mentioned earlier, one of the most common changes that any business needs to be able to deal with is a change in personnel. This is also the single most common reason why our clients come to us, asking for help with management of their evolving and ever-changing CRM needs. Very often they do so because a key colleague, who was the go-to person for managing the CRM, has left the team, or worse still, has left the business. Sometimes the problem is just that there wasn't the time to train anyone up to replace them. More often than not, the actual problem is that there is no backup go-to person in place. Risk can be reduced massively by having at least 2 people with the skills needed to manage your CRM, but we understand that this is not always possible. In fact, there are multiple roles that make up the perfect best practice CRM management team, and we'll explore those in more detail in a moment. Let's look at the second of these elements. Processes. By processes in this context, we simply mean what processes do I need around change management and control of configuration changes. For example, are we going to allow everyone to be system administrators on Workbooks? Are we going to control very tightly who can have access to the platform? If so, what does that process look like? Are we going to control the management of changes being made to the system? Again, if we're going to take that approach, what processes do we need in place? Let's now look at the last of these 3 elements. Technology. So, what technology are we using for best practice management of change? For example, if you were looking after your own internal change management, we would suggest you make use of the Workbooks cases functionality. With this approach, your colleagues simply raise a ticket when they need to ask for some help, and then if a change is needed, you can easily track and manage it using the standard case management features in Workbooks. Of the 3 elements we've touched on, the remainder of today's presentation is focused on the people aspect of the successful CRM framework. Workbook CRM itself as a product covers the processes and technology aspects really well, but the area in which you might need the most support is the people, because that is where you are most likely to lack some of the key resources or CRM skill sets. So let's explore the people aspect. More specifically, let's look at the key roles that you will need inside your business to ensure that you have a truly well-managed and well-controlled CRM platform. We would say there are 4 main roles that need to be filled for CRM to be as effective as possible. It's no coincidence that these same roles are very much part of the roles and responsibilities matrix that we apply during any new implementation of CRM. The first role we see here is the executive sponsorship role. Typically, this would be a business owner, possibly a director, or a very senior stakeholder in the business, someone who has a clear vision and strong reasons for making the CRM system a success longer term. This role will also provide guidance and leadership around the quality of the adoption of CRM and continued best practice use of the CRM across the business. The second role is the power users role. The name probably speaks for itself, but these are typically users who are very familiar with the business processes and how the CRM supports those processes. The third role provides CRM expertise. This is a blended role, potentially filled by a number of people, and one that would typically provide skill sets such as business process requirements analysis, resource management, solution design and project management expertise. It's a role that understands CRM as a whole really well and how best to leverage CRM for any given business need. The fourth role is that of CRM admin. This is someone doing the day-to-day admin work. In most organizations, it's someone who carries out a whole host of activities like dealing with joiners and leavers, managing case queues, adjusting access permissions, and many more ad hoc user admin and system administration tasks. In larger or more complex organizations, this might be someone who not only does all those tasks, but also maintains the configuration of the CRM, carrying out work such as monitoring integrations, report writing, adding new fields, making form layouts, changes, and so on. Now that we have defined these four main roles at a high level, let's start to look at each of them in a little more detail. We would split these roles into two groups of two, the business roles and the CRM roles. Firstly, let's look at the two business roles. The first of these is the role of executive sponsors. Like most of the roles we are looking at today, this is not necessarily a one-person role and could be shared by a number of people. As the name would suggest, this is where we would see the senior stakeholders and leadership of the business being involved. These are the people who are responsible for setting out the critical business needs and defining the required business outcomes and the desired business benefits. If we look back to when we run our shared success workshops, the executive sponsors are typically in the room to help us do that. But the importance of their role does not stop there. After we have completed a successful implementation project, these senior stakeholders and executive sponsors do need to stay fully engaged with the CRM to make sure they are contributing in several ways. Firstly, making the right budget and the necessary resources available for the CRM. Secondly, they need to champion adoption. That could take various forms, such as ensuring new starter onboarding includes full training on the CRM, encouraging staff to make best use of CRM in their day-to-day activities, monitoring adoption and usage levels over time, but also looking for new opportunities to maximize the creation of value in the business. Thirdly, possibly most important of all, the executive sponsors need to consider what part CRM needs to play in any process change or organizational change. Prime examples would be the launch of a major new product offering, or perhaps a rebrand. One of the first considerations of what needs to be done in the business to implement desired changes is what effect it will have on the CRM. That is to say, what will CRM need to deliver in addition to what it does already to enable the process or organizational change being planned. The second of the two business roles is the role of power users. These will often be departmental users, such as a marketing executive, or a sales team leader, or a finance assistant, or a process owner in any area of the business. But generally, someone who knows their area of the CRM well and knows how their team should be using CRM day to day. We could summarize by calling these users departmental champions. These champions also feed into the people who are filling the CRM roles, for example, with new requirements, process refinements, and other suggested improvements. When CRM is being done really well in a business, we often see the power users working in support of the other users in their department. For instance, this may include working alongside CRM admins to teach new starters or new team members, to help them make the most out of CRM and maximize the business investment. Occasionally, power users may even have the time to stretch their roles towards more technical aspects of CRM management, such as writing reports or making minor configuration changes. So at this point, it's worth sharing as a quick reminder the roles that the Workbooks professional services team will typically provide in the delivery of implementation projects. because they are very similar to those required for best practice ongoing management of your CRM. Firstly, CRM expertise. For a new implementation, the Workbooks team typically provides the CRM expertise role, which includes, for example, the project management resources in the form of an engagement manager. So the engagement manager, along with the technical consultants, functional consultants, the business analyst, the solution architect, etc., all work towards one common goal. That goal is to drive CRM success through a strong implementation that successfully delivers the business value that your organization requires. These are the people who are carrying out tasks such as the assessment of the business needs and the transformational changes that are desired, conducting the analysis of your critical processes and requirements, and ultimately planning and executing the necessary CRM configuration changes. Those same skills are also needed to achieve best practice management of CRM longer term. Secondly, CRM admin. This encompasses day-to-day administration. So, for example, making minor config tweaks like adding some pick list values, or when small enhancements are requested, it could involve adding new fields to the database and making form layout changes, for instance. This admin work might also include uploading data into the system. So perhaps if you acquired a fresh batch of enriched contacts or companies from a data provider, then the CRM admin would take charge of uploading that data into the CRM for you. Other activities include writing reports or creating new dashboards, for example, for the marketing team or the sales team. These teams will quite often want to see the CRM data sliced and diced in many different ways. So typically the CRM admin will be writing those reports and creating those dashboards for colleagues, actually all over the business. Other CRM admin tasks include training of users, making sure users are logged in and using the system well, also supporting power users with training of new colleagues as part of onboarding. This is a key area because it's vitally important that CRM adoption is strong. So the CRM admin role includes monitoring and managing not only volume of adoption, but also quality of adoption, ensuring that the user base is not just using CRM, but using it the right way. New users might need extra support in the early days. So who do they go to? The CRM admin. A CRM admin will also have the skill to make config changes and other refinements to the customization of the CRM. For example, to create and deliver scheduled reports to the business leaders, or to help with data quality management, or to enable simple process improvements. Looking at these two more technical CRM roles, some of our clients do have the resources that have all the skill sets and the required bandwidth to meet the demands of these CRM roles. In reality, however, for the vast majority of our client base, making even a minor change to the CRM is not something they would want to take on themselves, let alone the more technical aspects. In short, many of our clients simply don't have the time or the resource to be filling these CRM roles and doing them both really well, alongside the day job of running their business. On that note, I'm delighted to hand over to my colleague, Jean.
Thank you, Brendan. Hello, everyone. I'm Jean Hardy-Matthews, the Customer Success Manager at Workbooks, and I also head up our support team. I think that Brendan's just done a really good job of setting the scene regarding what's required in order to ensure that your initial CRM implementation is successful, and also that the ongoing maintenance of it builds on that success. And I'm sure that a lot of what Brendan's covered has resonated with you, especially when thinking about the key roles that need to be in place in order to make your CRM platform successful, but also in terms of the processes and technology. Now, most of you watching this session will already have the technology in place, I'm sure, because you're using Workbooks. And many of you may well have great processes in place in terms of facilitating onboarding new starters or when something needs to change in your system. And some of you will also have all the right people in the right roles, together with the right level of knowledge and experience to keep your system in really good shape. However, in our experience, and as Brendan has already alluded to, relatively few customers have all three things in place at the same time. Often we see that roles such as the CRM admin are given to users who don't have both the bandwidth and the knowledge to perform the task really well. We get lots of queries across our support desk from people who are trying their best to manage workbooks for their business, but who simply don't have the background of business analysis or technical solution design, or they don't have the knowledge of how to do things like adding and onboarding new users or building reports, keeping processes up to date, and so on. Frequently, the administration of the platform has fallen to a user with a full-time job in sales or marketing or another discipline, who just happened to pick up the principles fairly easily. The result is that, unfortunately, CRM success for these customers is sometimes compromised. To address this, we've decided to launch a managed service to help mitigate these challenges for our customers. The service is primarily aimed at those companies who don't have enough available people within their business to manage workbooks. As I said, we often hear that while customers have the willingness to run the system, they simply don't have the time or maybe the knowledge. In essence, what we're providing is the role of a system administrator, but I'd say it's more than that, because you're able to tap into the wealth of expertise at Workbooks, which I'll look at in just a moment. As it says here, the managed service isn't there in place of professional services, but it will help determine what can be done now versus defining what pieces of project work are required to meet developing business needs and to ensure your implementation keeps pace with evolving work processes. If project work is identified, we would discuss the scope required and advise on the purchase of professional services to fulfill that. The service is designed to be added to your existing contract, and the price point is dependent on the number of users you have, together with the type of licenses in place and the complexity of your specific implementation. So what's included in the service? Earlier, Brendan described the 4 key roles that are needed for CRM success. We can't take the place of your executive sponsors or your power users, but what we can do is help you by fulfilling the roles of CRM expert and CRM admin. As I mentioned, the managed service is predominantly an administration service, but there's also bandwidth for providing the CRM expert role. Some of that will be the engagement manager or project manager role to help in the delivery of the managed service itself. But there'll also be time to cover areas such as CRM best practice, for example. Importantly, you'll benefit from having access to the breadth of our resources and expertise in terms of things like business analysis and technical solution design. As a rough estimate, we'd imagine the split between the 2 roles to be in the region of 20% of the time being spent on CRM expertise and 80% on the admin topics, the actual doing of the work, if you like. But this can flex depending on your specific circumstances. For clarity, let's look at what's not included in this service. We don't include the writing of any process scripts to enable automation on your system, or the development of integrations with other platforms if we don't already have the integration that you need. However, the service itself will be integral in identifying where these changes would be beneficial. So we would discuss these with you and agree a prioritized program of work that you could then engage our professional services team to deliver. You can also see here in the 4th bullet point that on-site training isn't included, but remote training is. How does it all work then? We would track your requests via our case records, also known as tickets. You can raise these cases with the managed service team via email, via our case portal, or via the telephone, and we offer you a choice of 2 modes. The first is a mode where cases are channeled via a relatively small number of named contacts at your end before they get to us. And this tends to work better for larger groups of users where there's some level of CRM expertise internally. And it means that we spend less time triaging issues for you and can focus more on the delivery. The second mode allows all of your Workbooks users to raise cases directly with the managed service team. This approach tends to be better suited to smaller organizations with no CRM resources. Regardless of the mode used, though, the tickets will come in and will be triaged by our managed service team. They'll identify if there's any risk involved in carrying out the work. So, for example, a request for a straightforward report that isn't used in any configuration settings isn't risky, so that could be actioned straight away. Whereas changes to something like a pick list, which might seem like quite a minor change, could potentially cause issues further downstream and might break something in a workflow. In that scenario, the ticket would be held until a weekly review meeting between the managed service team and you, the customer, where all the open cases would be discussed and prioritised. There are some key milestones in terms of setting this up for you. To initiate the managed service, we would start with a deep dive discovery workshop, which will allow us to identify what level of service is required and what mode would be appropriate in terms of who can raise managed service cases. Importantly, this workshop also enables us to identify a roadmap of work for you. We'll deliver our findings to you in a playback meeting, and from there, we'll run a kick-off meeting to get things going. Then we'll take you and your colleagues through onboarding so that everyone knows how the service works and what to expect. Thereafter, we get into a cadence of meetings. The weekly meeting is a chance to review the cases in progress and reprioritise things if required. The monthly meeting, which will be run by your allocated managed service engagement manager, allows discussion of any cases that would be candidates for project work. And then each quarter, we'd run an executive review involving your key stakeholders, as well as a representative from our senior leadership team, to ensure that the overall relationship is going well and the service is delivering as expected. So I hope that's helped to clarify the managed service to you, and you can see the benefits of going down that route. I'm going to hand back to Brendan now, who'll wrap up on those best practices and finish off for you.
Thanks, Jean. So to summarize, we know that CRM software will create business value, but it won't achieve that unless there is an appropriate level of investment, not just of time, but critically the investment of resource as well. We talked about how you must consider people, processes, and technology, but the real focus is on the people. Yes, we appreciate that businesses change, especially when they are growing. However, it is not always appreciated that the systems underpinning the business, in particular the CRM, must also evolve and change, ideally keeping up with the pace at which the business is changing. In short, to maintain maximum efficiency and effectiveness of the CRM, it needs to be managed proactively. We stated that 4 key roles are required, and we spoke about those roles at some length. Looking at those roles, it's fair to say that you and your colleagues will quite naturally fill the exec sponsors role and the power users role. But if you are unable to fill the CRM expertise and CRM admin roles, we can do that for you and fill both of those CRM roles. And we can do so for your business through the Workbooks managed service. So what next? If you would like to find out more, please discuss this with your customer account manager here at Workbooks. If you are unsure who your account manager is, then simply email us at cam@workbooks.com. On behalf of myself and Jean and the whole Workbooks team, thank you for listening.